join me now as we dive into this subject that I think really is the one thing. It's the one thing that changes everything. Now, I've been pastoring now for about 15 years, and I've been a leader for as long as I can remember. Just had the gift of influence. And one of the things that I've discovered is that everybody has a solution. Everybody's got a solution and a strategy for what they think is the thing that makes you a great leader. There's so much literature that has been written. There's so many books out right now. I would almost go so far as saying it seems there was a time where it seemed like if you have vision is the most important thing that a leader can have. However, there is a book that I want to recommend to you right here on the screen. It's called Influencer. It's a New York Times bestseller. And in this book, which was a book written by, compiled by, and edited by a number of individuals. You can see it right there, the book Influencer. It's the science of leading change. It's the science of leading change. And since so many of you have joined today, are wanting to make impact in your church as a pastor or as a member, or if you have a ministry, the assumption is that you want to make impact in the sense that you want to see change take place in your church. Change, obviously, for the better. But in this book, some very insightful things came out that will help guide us to understand what is the one thing that will bring about the kind of change that we want to see. And what I think is the one thing that changes everything. The one thing that changes everything. So let's take a look here and see what is being said. This is out of the book Influencer. It says, what qualifies people to be called leaders is their capacity to influence others to change their behavior in order to achieve important results. So a leader essentially is somebody who has the capacity to influence. You have the ability to influence, to get people to move or to do something. And in the book, the question is asked, and it says that there are three ways that we go about bringing about change. Their research came to discover, after looking at a number of organizations and a number of different strategists and leaders, they said that there are three crucial things that determine whether your leadership can bring about influence. The first thing that they discovered is that these leaders are very focused and they measure what they are focused on. In other words, they have clarity on what they're focused on and they constantly measure what they're focused on. Number two, they also discovered that they have found vital behaviors. So they've got a clarity of vision and they know the behaviors that will help to buttress or support that vision. And then number three, they engage all sources of influence. Clarity of thought, they measure that incessantly, and then they have supportive behaviors to help that function, and they engage all the sources of influence. Now, focus. First thing we need to understand is high impact leaders are crystal clear about the result they want to achieve. I heard one person say that if it's a mist to the leader, it's a fog to those that are following him. Like if there's anything as a leader that you want crystal clarity about where you're going and what you're doing. I remember my dad used to have a baseball cap and it had two rims pointing in two different directions. And it's on the top of it, it says, "I'm the leader, follow me." But it gave the suggestion that he didn't know where he was going. It is critical that you not only know where you're going, but and know the target and the goal. It's also critical that you measure that you're able to check it and see, are we getting there and how are we getting there? It's hard to do that if you don't know what it is. Then you got to know the vital behaviors. The vital behaviors. What are the key 2 or 3 behaviors? Most successful organizations, according to the book Influencers, they all have 2 to 3 behaviors that help to support the vision. In other words, whatever their clarity of direction is, their goal of destination is they said, what are the behaviors that will help us to get there? And they're generally about 2 to 3 behaviors. Like, for example, at our church, we have 2 to 3 behaviors for our goal, which is to establish a community of grace. And that's worship, that's small group fellowship through discipleship, and that's through outreach. So we only do 3 things in our church because we realize that it takes 2 to 3 behaviors to help support your vision, to bring about the change that you want to experience based on the science and the research. And then the third thing is to engage all sources of influence. Those behaviors have sources, and whatever those sources are of influence that will help to support the behavior, then you need to engage all of them. Now, here's the thing that I really want you to pay attention to. There are 3 mistakes struggling leaders make. Seth, are you there?
Yes.
Oh, good, man. We can't see you, but we can at least hear you. Glad we can see you, man. Now we just need to unmute you. Can I hear you? Can you hear me now, Seth?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, man. One of the things that the book goes so far as saying is that one of the 3 mistakes that struggling leaders make is they have, number 1, fuzzy goals. So I want you to think about this. Ask yourself, as a church leader, you have a ministry, what's my goal? If you can't really articulate that very, very clearly, then you generally fall into this. 3 mistakes leaders make, struggling leaders make. You're struggling in your church, you're struggling in your ministry. One of the reasons why is fuzzy goals. Second reason is infrequent or no measures. And this is the part many of us don't like. We don't like to measure. We don't like to talk, debrief. Some of us are leaders and we don't like to have meetings, and I understand all of that. And maybe that will be time for another webinar. We can talk about how to have meetings that you like attending. But when you have fuzzy goals, you generally will infrequently or not measure what you're doing at all. So you'll never know if you're hitting the target. And then 3, what's worse, you'll have bad measurements of bad behaviors. And so you're measuring the wrong behaviors, and the wrong behaviors in and of themselves will constantly have you in frustration. So those are the 3 mistakes that struggling leaders make. Now, according to Forbes, and another book that I was reading just the other day, which I'll show you momentarily, the number 1 quality people want in their leader. Like, what's the number 1 quality people want in their leader? I want you to put that in put that in the chat. What do you think the number 1 quality is that followers want in their leader? The number 1 quality that followers want in their leader. The number 1 quality that followers want in their leader. I'm going to back up here. The number 1 quality that followers want in their leader. All right, some of you have made comments here. The number 1 quality that followers want in their leader. Check this out. According to the book Strengths Based on Leadership from Tom Rath, he says the number 1 qualities that people want in their leader are, now this is where I'm going with the whole conversation of the one thing that changes everything in your leadership is when you begin to embrace the concept I'm getting ready to share. I got to set you up. I got to set you up for this thing first. First, you got to understand that you got to have clarity of vision. You got to know where you're going. Now watch this. You got to measure that thing. But here's what people are looking for in their leaders. They're looking for trust, compassion, and then number 3, they're looking for stability and hope. Now, what all of these have in common, especially your top 2, are soft skills. That's what they call in the leadership world. They call these soft skills. In the human resource area, they call these soft skills, not learned or applied skills, such as various things that you're capable of doing, strategic planning, speaking, communication, all those things. No, the number 1 people want is not a great speaker. The number 1 thing that people want is not necessarily someone with a great administrative acumen or great business mindedness. This is good for some of you because some of you are like, I don't know where I fit in. The number 1 thing that people are looking for if they are to follow you is trust. Number 2, compassion. I want to lean on the first 2. Both of these have one thing in common: relationship. They're totally soft skills. They're relationship. So I want to ask you a question right now based on the one thing. Relationship is really what people are after if they're following you. Why do you lead? That's the question. Why do you lead? Do you lead to accomplish things? Do you lead to get things done? Do you lead to move the movement or the mission or the vision that you've been given? Can I give you, I'm going to be very honest with you. Because I'm a people pleaser, for the most part, if I'm totally honest, my bedrock reason for leading for the majority of my leadership time was to obtain approval from people. Everything I was doing to get approval from people. I led, my why was, I want people to be proud of me. I want people to be happy with me. I want people to see that I'm a good leader and a good guy and that I'm genuine and that I'm sincere. That was my number one reason for leading. But here's the thing. I was none of those things because I was essentially, through my approval addiction, using people to be able to accomplish a selfish goal. See, you have to really ask yourself, why do you really lead? I mean, really dig down deep into your soul and ask yourself why you're leading. Some of you are not approval addicts per se, but you just are task oriented and you like to get things done. You get worked up when you're able to accomplish and build things. But even that is a low-key selfish way of using people that will follow you, leading people to accomplish things just for the sake of accomplishment. So here's the one thing that changes everything that you have to embrace. Like, if you wanted to, you probably could jump off right now. But I got to explain this thing to you because you may not receive it. The goal of leadership is relationship. The goal of leadership is relationship. The goal of leadership is not getting things done. The goal of leadership, I know this sounds crazy. I've never thought like this. I thought the goal of leadership was to get people to do things. Yes and no. The goal of leadership is to establish relationship. That's not sexy. I don't know if you're going to see many leadership books on this. This is not the trend of leadership that I'm hearing these days, and you can see it in many of our leaders that are around. Look at the leader of our country right now. Does it seem like Donald Trump prioritizes relationship in leadership, even though the top two things people want from a leader is trust and compassion? I think not. When good relationships are formed, good things result. Now, that's the key I want you to get. Because some people are saying, okay, Pastor, I hear what you're saying. You're saying the one thing that changes everything when I embrace a mindset that relationship is the goal of leadership. It's the goal. It's not the means to an end. It's the goal of leadership. Yes, when relationships become the goal of your leadership, the natural result of that is good things are going to happen. There will be results. You are going to accomplish amazing things. I was talking to a very famous person who I'll leave nameless, very famous person. I mean, worldwide famous. And he has lots of money. And one of the things I was saying to him, or what he was saying to me rather, was, he said, Myron, when you have relationship, he says, you don't need money. I said, what do you mean by that? Hold on. He's like, everybody wants money. He said, but when he says people that have relationship don't pay for stuff. People that have relationship don't need things, because what comes with relationship are the things that you need. Are you hearing me now? When you have established relationship, the outgrowth of that relationship are better churches, are better followers, are the accomplishment of mission. You see people joining church, people coming to Christ, your church growing, your ministry expanding. This happens out of a system and a culture where relationship is prioritized over everything else. That's the one thing that changes everything. When you embrace the mindset that the people that are under me, or that I am leading, that I am serving rather, that I'm serving up to, I am serving them not just to use them to get things done, or just to use them so I can feel like I've accomplished something, but the goal of my leadership is to establish relationship. That changes your whole framework of what success in leadership looks like. Success in leadership. Can I give you my picture of success in leadership? I'm going to tell you right now. Here's my picture. I should have put a picture of this on the screen before I look at what Jesus has to say about this. My picture for success in leadership is when we have my funeral, and I've told my wife that when y'all see me, I don't want my casket. I don't want open casket or nothing like that. But just picture me, if you would, my dead corpse in a casket at a church. And you know what I'm hoping? I'm hoping that that place is full. I can't lie to you. Some people say, don't care. I want my funeral to be packed. I want them to have several funerals for me because they have no way to contain this. I mean, I want people to come, and this is what I want to hear, though. I want to hear family members and friends and people that I've influenced, and I want them to hear not necessarily the things that I've done. I don't want them to say he built churches and he baptized a lot of people and he led initiatives and he led programs. I want to hear them talk about soft skills. I want to hear them say he was a loving guy. He was genuine. He was a good family man. And when I was in need, when I needed help, he was there for me. See, you have to understand that when you lead, what is temporary are your accomplishments. What's temporary are the things that you want to do. But what remains forever in leadership are relationships. Relationships never go out of style. You can be serving here and move and go someplace else and serve someplace else. But one thing that will always be there and that will always be your resource are the relationships that you built. And Jesus models this. Watch this. I'm going to show you the same thing. It's all out of scripture. In Luke 19:10, watch, it talks about Jesus' mission. The Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. All right. So you look at that and you'll say, hey, Jesus' mission was to come and save people. You read that text, it says Jesus' mission was to come and to save us, to die on the cross, save us from our sins. All right. But you got to study deeper. Watch what John 3:16 says. It says, for God so loved the world, y'all know this, that he gave his one and only son, and you know, blah, 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 blah. The question you need to be asking is why did Jesus come and die? Here it is. Jesus' mission was not to die for us. Jesus' mission was to restore relationship. Saving us was the means to the end. Did you catch that? Did y'all catch that? Did you catch that? Jesus' mission was not to die for us. That was just the means to the end, which the end is to restore relationship. See, Calvary is temporary. Calvary was an event that has so much power, actually, that it works throughout our lives. But the goal of Calvary was to establish relationship. Did you catch that? Did you catch that? If you guys are sharing this or tweeting this information or posting it on Facebook, would you use the hashtag the one thing? The one thing, the one thing, the one thing. Listen, this is Jesus' model. Jesus as a leader, his main objective was not simply just to get things done. His main objective was to establish relationship, and that is the goal of Jesus' ministry. And I would suggest it should be ours as well. Here's a great resource I want to recommend to you. The name of the book is called Covenant Relationships. Covenant Relationships. And in this book, this is what he says. He says, anytime a ministry, now don't miss this, guys. Anytime a ministry extends beyond the scope of relationships involved in it, that ministry has gone beyond the very goal that it was designed to produce. The goal of, if you're a praise team leader, the goal of your ministry is to establish relationships. The result of that ministry is y'all gonna sing real good and lead a lot of people into the presence of God. The goal of you Pathfinder leader, or the goal of you pastor, the goal of your goal, a discipleship leader, whatever ministry that you're leading in your church, your main objective outside of the documents, the presentations, the speeches, the sermons, the meetings, the events, when you remove all of those things, it's to establish healthy relationships. That's the goal. And those relationships in turn will create results. They'll be the fruit of it. Now, here's the thing, and I want to show you guys something to say. We live in a culture of indifference. We live in a culture of indifference, a culture of indifference. You see the picture there. I mean, we live in a culture where if you see a homeless person, you walk by them and nobody feels bad about it because we just see so many hurting people around. Well, there's a psychological terminology for this, and it's called the bystander effect. Now, I want you to buckle your seatbelts here. It's called the bystander effect. Now, look at the little picture here. You see a guy there bleeding. You see the guy bleeding. Man, I don't know what happened. He got hit by a car. I don't know. Hey, he got beat up. Who knows what happened to him? But look what the people are saying. They're saying that poor guy, someone should do something. He's a mess. Somebody should do something about this. And then others come along and they look and they say, yeah, somebody should do something about that. And of course, you get the point. The bystander effect is we look oftentimes and we see people in need, but we don't do anything about it. Now, I want you to see the connection. This bystander effect, this psychological phenomenon, was based on the experience of Kitty Genevieve's case that happened in 1964. Some of you may have heard the story where this woman was being stabbed to death just outside of her apartment, and there were 38 witnesses who saw the whole thing but said nothing and did nothing. So the bystander effect is simply this: people are less likely to help someone when other people are present. People are less likely to help someone when other people are present. Now, I want to illustrate this to you through this video that I'm going to show right now of Esmond Green. This happened in the state of New York several years ago, but I want you to check this out. This is the silent video. You see Esmond, she falls out. Watch carefully now. She's inside the hospital emergency waiting room. She falls out. This is in the ER, y'all. Somebody finally gets up after time has elapsed, that's 45 minutes later now. The security guard comes out to check on her. She's still laying there. He's looking to see. This is in a hospital, everybody. This is a hospital. Esmond Green, for an hour now, has been laying there. Look at the dear sister sitting down in her chair. She looks unmoved by it. Finally, they come in. Finally, they get her. Finally, oh, now the lady is standing up. Now others are coming in. But by this time, it's too late. Now I want you to hear the news story video about this.
A sad death in New York City. Surveillance cameras at a city-run psychiatric hospital emergency room in Brooklyn capture a woman falling from a chair, writhing on the floor, and dying. Hospital staff and other patients watch and do nothing for more than an hour. One guard doesn't even leave his chair, rolling it around the corner to stare at the body. The New York Civil Liberties Union sued the facility, Kings County Hospital Center, last year over the way it treats psychiatric patients.
It's a chamber of filth, decay, indifference, and danger, and seeks an end to the culture of abuse and neglect.
The city's medical examiner has yet to determine why the woman, 49-year-old Esmond Green, died on June 20th. She had been waiting in the emergency room for nearly 24 hours.
The reason why this woman died the way she did is because there is a culture of indifference to patients that permeates every aspect of KCHC's psychiatric care.
The agency that runs the hospital released a statement saying, "We are shocked and distressed by the situation. It is clear that some of our employees failed to act based on our compassionate standards of care. The hospital has directed the suspension and termination of those involved." Surveillance video eventually shows a member of the medical staff attending to Green, but it's too late. She has already died. Ted.
Wow. Look, she died in the ER, everybody. And look, let's be honest. This is a psychiatric hospital. I don't know. Maybe somebody's thinking, oh, she's crazy. Maybe she's acting out. I don't know. It's a psychiatric hospital, so they probably see cases like this all the time. They have become so numb to the situation that a woman literally died in the ER. She died in the ER because of indifference and because of the bystander effect, which is somebody else's problem. That's somebody else's problem. And sometimes as leaders, because we're dealing with difficult people and dealing with people and leading people and amongst people, sometimes we have a tendency to forget that we have people that are around us that are in need of help, that are in need of relationship, and not just in need of direction. Sometimes we feel like they just need to do their job better, but it could be that one of the reasons why the relationship aspect of your ministry has not gone the next step is because you have not gone deeper or further or sought to go further with your people. You cannot adequately lead people that you do not care about. And so the one thing that changes everything is you have to be a relational leader. You have to be a relational leader. You have to prioritize relationship. I'm not talking about personality. I'm just talking about leadership. Now check this out. Everyone's got a story. And that's primarily where we need to begin if we're going to embrace this new way of thinking about leadership, that leadership is relationship, and that relationship is the goal of leadership. Check this out. This is a Chick-fil-A. This is the Chick-fil-A training video that they give to their workers. This is going to blow your mind. Check this out. Sorry about that. I'll skip to it. Wow, that's cool. That's cool. Everybody's got a story, man. That's cool. I mean, that Chick-fil-A video. Now, for those of you who patronize Chick-fil-A for whatever the reason, I love Chick-fil-A, and I do patronize that place quite often. Let me tell you what I love the most about Chick-fil-A. And Chick-fil-A is not selling chicken sandwiches. Chick-fil-A is selling customer service. Same thing with Disney. All the great corporations. They've written about this. But what other fast food restaurant do you know where you have teenagers in there that are overwhelmingly polite and accommodating? That's Chick-fil-A. I mean, you've been to Chick-fil-A to know what I'm talking about. Or they have fresh flowers there. I mean, they're constantly going out of their way to make sure that you're being served and you're being taken care of. They come and pick up your plate. That's because Chick-fil-A understands that relationship is critical to their bottom line. And they are using relationship in order to promote their business. They're selling chicken as a means to sell relationship. But I love the perspective of this video. One of the things they're teaching their staff members is, look, when people come in here, they may be disruptive, they may have an attitude, they may not have an attitude. Know that you're dealing with somebody that has a story behind their personality. behind the sandwich that they've ordered. There is a life, there's a story, they're not just a number. And as leaders, I think it's important that we understand that the people we're leading, but they're all their idiosyncrasies and their issues and the way they function and the way they behave, and you're trying to get them here, you gotta learn to tap into, this is just instructive, tap into their story. Tap into what makes them tick, what makes them who they are. So for example, like, here's my story. Like, if you want to get me excited about anything, talk to me about the inner city struggles of Black people. Talk to me about the inner city struggles of boys without fathers. There's a reason why. It's because of my story. I'm the only biological child out of 5. That's a picture of the family that I grew up in back in the day. As you can see me there with the word of God in my lap, praise God. I mean, even as a child, I was already moving in the place of the prophetic. But now you see me there, we're singing, we're actually having family worship. I don't know why somebody was taking a picture of this. Oh, I know. We were, they featured us in the Message magazine because our family was so weird. So there's my mom playing the piano. That's my dad standing to the left of the woman in pink playing the piano, red or whatever it looks like there on yours. And then there's then all the brothers and sisters that you see there, my Korean sister. I don't have time to tell you my whole story today, but all my brothers and sisters were adopted. And then you see that gentleman standing to the right of the piano. He was a brother that was on the streets of Washington, D.C. My dad passed by this guy, saw him with a 40-ounce Colt 45 beer in his hand. And they got into some altercation. He told him to get in the car. He ended up living with us for the next 7 years, moved from drug addict, alcohol abuser, addict, everything addict, to becoming personal ministries leader at our church, and then eventually worldwide evangelist. And it's crazy because the thing that produced, and then my brother, all of them doing well, all of them in adoption, all of them were adopted, foster care, came out of tough situations. My parents adopted them. We had over 70 people to live in our home when I was a child. Not at one time, but over time, my parents always had people living with us, just pouring into people, not preaching to them, not trying to get them to do anything except become the best that they could. And man, I'm telling you, there is a loyalty that people have for my parents that's almost cultish. I'm serious. I mean, I'm serious. Like they can get people to do anything. Why? Because they love people. They've poured into people. The value of relationship not only affected those lives, it affected my life, where I now realize that the way those lives were changed were over meals that we had at our house, not over Bible studies. We're over meals. Like, I'm gonna give you a word for somebody right now. You have a person, you're trying to get the max, you're trying to get more out of them. You see potential in them. You see, you think that they can do more. Or maybe there's somebody you're struggling with and you just can't connect with them. Like, the best way to do that sometimes is not in a meeting, and meetings are important. We're going to talk about that in our next webinar. Sometimes you're going to have some courageous conversations and deal with some conflict. But in many cases, we have not done the work of trying to build relationships with people. When you build relationships with people, it goes beyond them doing their duty. They will run through a brick wall for you when you have relationship. And you can't have relationship with everybody, but at least those that you are leading, by the grace of God, you can. Yeah, that's our family right there. That's the family, like adopted. I'm the only biological child out of 5. But to this day, we are blood. Some folks say blood is thicker than water. Well, I disagree. God is thicker than blood because he brought us all together. Now, I'm going to prove this from the word of God. Then we're going to open up for some dialogue. Why I believe that the one thing that changes everything in your leadership was hidden in the Bible. I say hidden because I don't know how we missed it. This thing is tucked in the word of God. And for whatever the reason, man, I've gotten caught up on all society's gimmicks and strategies for leadership, man, that I forgot the basic fundamental purpose of a leader is to establish relationships, not simply to get things done. And sometimes many of us are using people to get things done instead of getting things done in order to establish relationships. All right, so here's the leadership text in the Bible, which I never use this as a leadership text. It's in First Corinthians 14:1. All right. Now you guys know in 1 Corinthians 13 it says pursue love. It says pursue love. Pursue love. That's leadership. All right. So 1 Corinthians 14 says we ought to pursue love, but the love chapter of 1 Corinthians 13 is actually not a marriage chapter. Guess what, guys? I mean, like, it finally hit me. Like, oh, snap. 1 Corinthians 13 is a message to leaders on how to lead. The church was fighting over some crazy stuff. It's a tragic oversight that we have used 1 Corinthians 13. If I speak with the tongues of men and of angels and have not love, we have only applied that to relationships and marriage. That has nothing to do with marriage. It has nothing to do with relationships directly. The direct application for 1 Corinthians 13, talking about the love chapter, the love, these three remain, faith, hope, and love. And out of all of them, the most important is love. That's a message to leaders on how to lead. So it's a tragic oversight that we've missed that. Leaders set the tone in leading with love. Now, check this out here. It says, actually, I'm going to skip through this because I want to get to this. In his book, Leading with Love, Alexander Strauch, you got to check this out. Make some really good points. You need to get that book. I'll give you a bibliography at the end. So there was some false idea. There's some false ideas about love and relationship. You don't got to be everybody's best friend, but you should care about the people. 1 Corinthians 13 is saying, he said, look, you can speak with the tongue of men and angels. You can be gifted and skilled. But if you don't have genuine love and care and concern for your people, you have nothing. Look what D.L. Moody said, great revivalist preacher from the early 19th century. He said, there is no use trying to do church work without love. A doctor, a lawyer may do good work without love, but God's work cannot be done without love. Like, I mean, the doctor can be professional and have good bedside. My wife's a dentist. She can professionally, she can do those things, and you can get away with it, go home, make good money. But in church, you cannot get away with just being professional with people. In church, you cannot, unfortunately, you have to go deeper than just professionalism. The word says that we've got to go to a whole nother level. And that's why I'm telling you, you got to see it differently. The one thing that changes everything, 1 Corinthians 13 is a leadership chapter, not a marriage chapter of the Bible. Not a marriage chapter. Now, this struggle is not idiosyncratic. Now, because I know many of you are asking this question. You're saying, well, Myron, you're a people person. You're very outgoing. You're gregarious. This comes naturally and easy for you. No, it doesn't. God's love does not come naturally or easy for me. And let me say this. And yes, even though I'm an outgoing person, my motives are not always right. Sometimes I'm outgoing because I want people to like me. So that's based on my story, my experience. I want acceptance. I was teased a lot as a kid. So now that I can talk a little bit, communicate well, sometimes my motives, I'm being honest, sometimes my motives for what I do is so that people will say, man, I'm proud of that guy. Oh, look what he's done. Boy, he's done. And it's not for vain pride, glory. It's more or less, I want people to like me. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. Some of you are like me. So then there's some of you on the other side of the equation where you're very task-oriented and you're not outgoing and you're more of an introvert and you're not necessarily the person who gets energy from being in crowds, but you get energy from being alone. Well, don't worry. This is not a personality thing. This is not idiosyncratic. This is about the nature by which you seek to lead. And you cannot lead people if you don't care about people. Now, my care might look different than your care, but at the end of the day, we're not leading robots. We're leading people. One of the best pastors, this is for pastors, one of the best pastors that I've ever experienced this from is a pastor by the name of Ben Jones. Ben Jones is not like gregarious. He's not what you would call an overtly people person. He is very much comfortable with silence. He is an introvert, but he cares about people. Remember, the top two things that people want from their leaders is trust and compassion. If you have trust and compassion, you automatically become an attractive leader. And even if your administrative skills are weak, people will run through a brick wall for you if they know that they can trust you and that you have compassion on them. I've even seen this in the church setting. There are people I know in the church setting, you know them, they have great influence, but they're not necessarily out of the box. They're not really progressive, but people do what they want them to do. They're not necessarily an outgoing person, but man, they I don't know, they just have a way of showing and communicating to people that they love and they care for them. So here it is. Looking at 1 Corinthians, chapter 13, chapter 12, right? Setting this thing up. We're getting ready to end this thing. But check it out, man. It's right here in living color. I don't know how we all missed it, but we did. But it's right here. It's right here for us to see. Check it out. This is the chapter before the love chapter. And you know what's going on. They're dealing with all kind of drama in the church. All right. He says, now eagerly desire the greater gifts. And yet I will, he's talking to leaders desire the greater gifts. And yet I will show you the most excellent way. In other words, he's saying, here's a more excellent way to lead, not in gifting, but in love. See, that's different than the world's message of leadership. Leadership from the world's perspective is get things done, accomplish great things, be great, be successful. What the word of God is saying is there's a different way of success that is more enduring and that will produce great exploits for God. And that is leading with love. You guys know the context. They were fussing and fighting in the church who had the best gifts. But notice what Paul says here. He said, if I speak with the tongue of men and of angels, but do not have love, I'm only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal, just full of noise. He says, if I have the gift of prophecy, can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. And then he says, love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. For it does not dishonor. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. See, that's me. Even though I'm outgoing, I love to hug the people and the babies. Sometimes I'm doing it because I want to be liked. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Like, we need this in leadership. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Now here's the one thing that changes everything about leadership. When you lead with love and lead with relationship being established as the destination of your leadership, you will never fail. Look, listen, this is good news. Like, you may not accomplish the stuff that you want to accomplish, but you have established influential relationships with people. I'm promising you this. When you establish those relationships, it is very unlikely that you will not experience great exploits. And you do it in your own armor. You do it in your own skin. You may not be loud up front, but you find a way to pour into people. You find a way. This is the ministry of Jesus. Jesus gathered 12 people, poured into them. In your own way, you got to find a way that this is the indispensable thing that makes your leadership enduring. It's the one thing that changes everything. Seeing people and not just seeing accomplishment. High impact leadership profile. This is what you need. You need kindness, courage, and patience. Everything else, somebody else can have those skills. Somebody else can have administrative skills. Somebody else can be the visionary. But if you're a leader, you need some kindness, you need some courage, and you need some patience. And these are the things that I think that will be a blessing to you and helping you to do that. All right, look, we're going to end that presentation right there, and we're going to open up just the floor for a few more minutes to ask questions. Seth, are you there? Let's see if our brother is still around. I see his name there. Any questions? If you have questions, I want you to type them right there into the chat. The one thing that changes everything is seeing people as the goal and relationship as the goal of your leadership, rather than just trying to get things done. Many of us are trying to get things done, but we're ignoring the very thing that we need to get that thing done, and that's relationship. That's relationship. All right, brother. I promoted somebody else here. Let me see. Any questions? How can I? Someone is saying, Hey, Van Dion, come on, get in here, brother, man. This is one of the best examples of a relational leader that I know of. Seth, I've unmuted you as well. We got a question here. But before I take questions, hey guys, what you think, Van Dion? Seth, what you think?
Yeah, man. I think you're totally on point. You know, that's my mantra in life. You know, is relationship, man. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yep, I can hear you, bro. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know, that's my mantra in life, man. So you're actually down my road, man. I'm like totally loving this, man. I actually opened up my my dissertation for my DMin, talking about lay youth leaders and what does it take for lay youth leaders to connect with students, to get more people to attend their programming, that kind of thing. And the opening line of my dissertation says, "Relationship is everything."
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm developing over the course of my whole dissertation. So you're totally on point. Relationship just drops all kinds of barriers that would otherwise hinder you from actually getting things accomplished with a pure motive. I mean, you can have pure motives to want to get things accomplished, but if you're not really willing to enter into a relationship with people, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
Yo, sometimes I know. I mean, the first time I shared this was at Seth's church, and you know, Seth, you and I, we had a nice candid conversation about it. The truth of the matter is, for those of you who are watching, Seth and I, like, we do a lot of things together. We partner a lot of things. Matter of fact, our next webinar, which is going to be on courageous conversations. You want to check out Seth Yolorda's. You want to check out his YouTube channel. Seth Yolorda, find him on YouTube. But he just put out a powerful video just on how to deal with difficult people, especially when you're leading change, and you know, you may have you on the wrong seat. But Seth, man, one of the things you and I were talking about was, you know, when we first shared this presentation, I mean, honestly, because you are more task oriented, there was a little pushback, and you were kind of like, well, you know, where are we coming from on this? But I'm just curious to know, just, you know, just having a real conversation here. You know, one of the things I was sharing with you was like, even though I'm relational, at least from the natural sense, not always for the right reasons. You know what I mean? I'm relational. I mean, I'm using people so I can feel good about me. And maybe a task-oriented person uses people so they can get things done. But it doesn't matter. You can be hugging babies and kissing them, and visiting and taking people out to lunch. But it doesn't matter if the motivation is not right. But what was your initial thoughts, Seth, and tell me where you are now in relationship?
Yeah, can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you. We can see and hear you, bro.
Okay. I can't see myself. So.
Okay,
yeah,
change it to gallery, from speaker view to gallery, or gallery view to speaker view. You can change.
Yeah, I'm still there, but I'm not seeing.
Well, we can see you and hear you good.
So, I mean, for me, the pushback that I was naturally getting was because I felt like, you know, we're here to get the job done. I mean, I am like on the opposite end of the spectrum from what Van Dion. I don't even see the people. All I see is the task. So when you say the people, I'm like, what people? No, all I see is the job to get done.
Yeah.
And so this message that you have shared today, and when you brought it to my church, it really challenged me. And it's a string of messages. I've been hearing this all my ministry. You know, Seth, you got to be more people oriented. You got to care about the people. And so what you're saying is no different than everything I've ever heard before. But it's just, again, reinforcing that, man, at the end of the day, accomplishing a vision, carrying out the mission of the church, doing anything of success that's going to result in success is really going to be because you've developed strong relationships with the people, you know, and you're not going to use the people to get a task done, which I have been guilty of and probably am still guilty of. But you form relationships with people just for the relationship's sake. The challenge that I had, and I think the feedback I gave you was like, well, you know, can't we go overboard with that though? Because we do have a task to be done, right?
That's right.
We still have to accomplish the mission. But I remember you saying like the mission is the relationship. You know, like the task to be done is the relationship, as opposed to my traditional, more, traditional train of thought, which was, no, like, I need to use these relationships to move the church forward, not realizing that moving the church forward is the relationships. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like Matthew 28. Like after I read that book, Leading with Love, I kind of saw it differently. Matthew 28 says, go and make disciples. And one of the things he was saying in the book was, go and make relationships. Like the ministry of the church is to go and make relationships with a bunch of people. We just happen to use buildings for it. We just happen to use facilities. We just happen to, have ministries and events. But at the end of the day, making disciples by making relationships. Here's a question that somebody's asking. They said, how can I, Joseph, hey, what's up, Joseph? He says, how can I make this practical? I get it theoretically, but what can I do next weekend to implement this thing? You guys want to take a stab at that? How can they practically do that? I mean, let me say this first. So for example, we just did this event, right? And this event that we did on Sabbath, and it was a outdoor, it was a festival kind of thing, but it was for our community, right? And it was not really for the church, it's for the community. And so, there were a few folks who kind of felt like, I don't think we should be doing this on Sabbath. And so the thing that pushed me over the ledge to do it is now, why am I doing this? Why are we doing this? Are we just trying to have an event? Like, no, we're trying to build relationship. Is it okay to build relationship with people on Sabbath? Yeah, that's the ministry of the church. And man, this is probably one of the most epic events that ever happened. But I'm just talking about even Seth, like to your point, like even on a strategic level, like the ministries and the events that we plan, they ought not just be to feed people information and to indoctrinate them, but to establish relationship. Because when you have people leave the church not because they don't know what's right. People leave the church because they don't have relationships. Matter of fact, I heard one study that says if you don't have more than 7 friends, you are going to leave the church. So to my brothers, like, bro, if you're leading people, a practical thing you can do is if you have a person that you don't know very well, why not try to find a way to connect with them in a way that's comfortable with you? Maybe it's a meal, maybe it's going out for coffee, maybe it's sending text messages. One of the things I do, Pastor Griffin and Yolanda, is I send out about 40 text messages a week to leaders. I mean, they're encouraged. It's either encouragement or I was praying for you. Encouragement or I was praying for you. How's your wife? How's your kids? I'm on a rotation. Can't really move as much as I want to because I got kids and stuff like that. But man, I'm pastoring through my phone. Like, I don't know what do you guys think? Answer his question. How can you practically do that?
I mean, I was saying, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, one of the things that he can do is try to establish something that is outside of the walls of that building. A lot of times once you come into that building, you are kind of like Seth. Let's get this task done. Let's make sure worship moves smoothly. I mean, you get a little irritated if the leaders are not doing what you feel like needs to happen. But the other thing is, man, leaders feel the same way. I mean, they feel like, this should have gone a little better. But what makes it work is that they know you care about them genuinely as a person. And so I think the thing that he can do next weekend is to get uncomfortable because building real, courageous, long-lasting relationships takes a bit of uncomfortableness. You have to say, I am not here just to get a job done. I'm actually here because I care about you, the person.
Yeah.
So
that's my job. That's the job I'm trying to get done.
That's it. That's the job. I care about you. And as a result of me caring about that particular person, you're going to get not just what you feel like you need to get done. They're going to be thinking 5 and 6 steps ahead of you because they feel like there's a real relationship there.
Yeah, John Maxwell has,
Yep.
leadership guru John Maxwell. I mean, he talks about in his book, in his book, Developing the Leader Within. If you haven't read it, I strongly recommend you should read it. Developing the Leader Within by John Maxwell. And one of the chapters is about developing your most appreciable asset, which is people. Mm-hmm. And that if you're ever going to become a level 5 leader, that it's going to be because people genuinely know that you care about them, you've made them better, And the only way that you're going to accomplish that is by spending time with them, connecting with them on a personal level, moving from positional leader all the way up to that level where you embody leadership. And so practically what I would suggest, and something that I took from his book, is he says that you should identify like 5 people in your congregation, in your organization. Each week, identify 5 people that you need to connect with, that you need to pour into. Not because you need something from them, but just because you want to, develop a relationship with them, take them out to lunch, invite them over the house for dinner, really just kind of pour into them. I'm that person where if I call you, it's only because I need something from you, right? So, and it's crazy because I have a hard time just talking to someone without there being some purpose to the conversation, right? So if I call my treasurer, I don't got a whole lot to say unless we're talking about like, money and the issues of the church. Like that's me. I recognize that's my struggle.
Yo, but you preface it with a lot of small talk.
Yeah, of course.
Hey,
small talk,
my brother. How are you? Good to see you.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. All right.
Exactly.
Where's the check?
How's the family doing, man?
Hey, listen.
Man, you cut straight to the chase. And so for me, this has helped me by just saying, hey, okay, who are the 5 people that I'm going to connect with this week? I don't want anything from them. I'm not calling because I need them to do something for me. I'm not checking up on how things went last week. I just want to know, how are they doing? What can I pray for? What do you need? How can I bless you? And so practically, I think that's a good place to start. If 5 people is too much for you, you're like me, like it's like, yo, it's overload. Start with 2 people. 2 people a week. I'm just gonna call, pour into, and I like Myron's method of texting people. But if you really want to go to the next level, you gotta pick up your phone.
Well, they gotta hear your voice at some point.
You gotta listen, and you got this is. I mean, I know this sounds old school, but look, you gotta. If you're a pastor, you have to visit your members. Like, but let me say this. It's crazy. Like even Jesus, right? If you look at Jesus as a leader, right? From the time he was here until the time he left, you have to agree from a worldly perspective that he was a failure. He took 12 people, and when he left, let's say he's a pastor of a church. Jesus has 12 members. when he's done, when he gets moved, he only has 11. One of them commits suicide, and the 11 that he has remaining, man, these guys they scatter, they run, they have no faith. It wasn't until after he left that anything happened, but that was the proof. That was the proof positive of his leadership, because Jesus came to establish relationship with those dudes and influential relationship with those dudes. He never saw the fruit of that relationship while he was here, but when he left, the relationship was so strong that they literally changed the world when he was gone, because the relationship that he established with them was more valuable. Now,
Myron, I do want to say something else about this, and I don't want to carry it too far, but I mean, I think, Jesus is our example of establishing relationships. And also, Jesus was not stingy with sharing the workload or sharing the gifts.
Right.
One of the things that I love about him is the fact that, he exemplified power, he exemplified authority, but he also wanted those people who are close to him to have that same kind of characteristics. And so the Bible says that he gave those disciples power, and he also gave them authority. The same thing that he was able to do, he wanted to see his closest people do the same exact thing.
Yeah, that's
so
good.
It wasn't just reserved for him. He could have said, okay, I'm the one with the power, I'm the one with the authority. He said, no, I want to give it to them because I want them to deliver people who are filled full with demons. I want them to be able to lay hands on sick. I want them to be able to raise the dead. So he shared the most powerful thing, and that is what he had. He gave it to them as well. And if you're going to be a great leader building relationships, you can't be stingy. Mm-hmm. You got to share some stuff. And you got to share what is most powerful to you as well.
All right, I got to end. That's a very good point. What Vanion is saying is that's the evidence that he really cared about them, because he gave them everything that he had. All right, here's the last one. Like, everybody's essentially asking the same question. Oh, this guy's saying, do you call the same 5 if that's all you have. Let me just say this. Jesus had the 12, but he spent more time with the 3 than he did with the 9. So that goes right along with what Seth was saying. Like, find you 3 or 5 people on your teams. You're leading a ministry team or somebody, in your church. Find your leader, could be your head elder, could be, but you need to spend the majority of your time, not with the majority of your congregation, but with the minority of your congregation, which is your leaders. It does take time. Here's the last question. I want Seth to lead off on it because this is going to be part A. Kimon, welcome. We have another introvert leader. Oh, just that quick. Just that quick. Hey, here's a question. He wants to know, like, how do you compassionately and courageously deal with a leader, with somebody that's following you that needs to be checked? Like, they're out of order, they're the wrong person on the bus, they're impeding the mission. They're like one member I had who was depopulating the kingdom of God. I mean, he's got a problem member or a problem person. He's wanting to know. This is from I don't want to call his name because I don't know if his members are watching, but he wants to know how do you.
Man, go to Seth Yourlord YouTube. Look up my YouTube channel, and the last 2 videos I released were specifically somewhat dealing with that. I mean, honestly.
Hey, can you put the link, Seth? Put the link in the chat. Can you do that?
Yes, sir. I mean, at the end of the day, you just have to you gotta have a crucial conversation. I mean, you gotta be willing to sit down with them and be like, hey, this is what I perceive. One principle that I have tried to live my life by, I picked up from Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And the principle is seek first to understand, then to be understood. Mm-hmm. All right. And so anytime I have a crucial conversation with someone or I confront a member who I feel is a problem member, I first want to give them opportunity to say, hey, what's going on? Tell me why I perceive that this is how you're behaving and how you're acting. And once I have a full understanding of what's behind it and what their motive is, then it'll inform my response. So at the end of the day, you just got to have a conversation with them. You just got to pull them aside, take them to coffee or to lunch or wherever, and just have that crucial conversation. And if it's someone, they're on your team, they're a leader of the church, one conversation may not be enough. You may recognize that you have to have a series of ongoing conversations just to not only clear the airway, but to maintain a strong connection with this person. And so I've been in situations like that where there's been people on our team and we just weren't really vibing. And so I had to make an intentional decision, as uncomfortable as it was, I'm going to have lunch with this person every single week, right? Every single week I'm going to call them because I just need to continue to build a strong relationship with them because they're one of the core leaders of the church. So that's what I would suggest.
Yeah, especially if you embrace the idea that relationship is the goal. It's the one thing that changes everything. Then you can't quit too easily on these relationships. And remember, just like the Chick-fil-A video, everybody has a story. And this is what I will say. The sooner you can tap into their story is the sooner that you will see accelerated results with the relationship with that person. Like, you gotta get past the church stuff or the ministry stuff. You gotta find out what makes them tick. And when you do, all of us probably have examples of this, where people will really follow us through a brick wall. Right now, to this day, I've got a list of members right now all over the country that they'll run through a brick wall because they love me and they know I love them. Anyway, guys, we've got to end this. I want to thank Vandion, Griffin, and Seth Yourlord for being impromptu contributors to this webinar. Our next webinar that we're going to do will be in the month of September, and we're going to be dealing with courageous conversations. It's going to be on the same lines. Here are the books and materials that you need. You might want to screenshot this right now that influenced the conversation we had today. Influence, Leading with Love, Strengths-Based Leadership, Covenant Relationships. One more thing. This is all in preparation for a conference that we are having for church pastors and leaders in 2018 called the Merge Conference. And the goal of this conference is to take pastors and their key leaders and merge their vision. One of the main problems with churches trying to move that you're having in your church, why you can't get none done, is because you don't got no relationship. because y'all got division instead of one vision. And we're going to help you. We're going to have some coaches there. We're going to share some stuff with you to get in. But here's the thing. You can't come without your pastor. Your pastor can't come without you. So we're only accepting a limited amount of congregations, but we'll give you more information as the day comes. You can contact me at leadpastor@readygrace.com or on any of the other social media outlets like Instagram and Twitter. I'm at itsmyronlive.com, or you can go to our church, Grace Community Seventh-day Adventist Church. It's on Facebook. You can check us out on YouTube, sermons, et cetera, et cetera. But we're right there for you. God bless you.